30. We'll read the shloka and then we'll go ahead. Sarve api ete yajna vidho yajna kshipta kalmasha yajna sam shishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions. And having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. Purport. From the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifice, namely the sacrifice of one's possessions, study of the Vedas or philosophical doctrines, and performance of the yoga system, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is an eternal atmosphere or Brahman atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifices help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of material existence. By this advancement of life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end, he enters into eternal kingdom of God, either merging into the impersonal Brahman or associating with the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. So this is a very important purport. I will read it again. What Prabhupada says is from the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifices. What are the sacrifices Krishna has described? Namely, sacrifice of one's possession, Dravya Yagya Krishna has said. Study of the Vedas or philosophical doctrines, that is Jnana Yagya. The performance of yoga system, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. So what is the first thing that we have to understand? That the aim of performing a sacrifice is to control the senses. Then he says sense gratification is a root cause of material existence. So all the problems that we have in our life and for which we suffer, what is the root cause of that? The root cause is the desire to enjoy material happiness. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, so till the time we give up the desire for sense gratification, we rise above that platform, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge. Till the time that desire is not given up for enjoying life, we will not come to the platform of knowledge. Full bliss and full life. So full knowledge, full bliss and full life. We will not come to that platform. This platform is in the eternal atmosphere or Brahman atmosphere. It is in the spiritual realm. All the above mentioned sacrifices help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of material existence. So why sacrifice is done? To control the senses and to purify us of our sinful reactions, provided we ensure that we do not cover them again. We do not do them again. Right? By this advancement in life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end, he enters into the eternal kingdom of God. So people in the desire to blindly only enjoy materially never become happy in their life. If you make a simple statement, it is not wrong that a person who is not a devotee is not happy. Simple. So to become happy, you need to be a devotee. That is a pre-qualification. So people may say that they are happy, but they are not happy. Because they are not happy, they have to take drugs, they have to smoke, drink, and do so many things. So the basic statement is that anyone who wants to become happy has to be a devotee. And the corollary to that is that being devotee means that you will be happy. And therefore he's saying here that what will happen by becoming devotee? You will become happy and you lead an opulent life. I repeat, when you try to become rich, you will not become rich. You will not become opulent. But when you try to become a devotee, you will automatically become opulent and happy. And irrespective of whether you become opulent or not happy, you will surely become satisfied and happy. That is there, which is the biggest opulence, which is not even there with the great, the richest of the people. Then he says, but in this life, not next life, in this life, and also in the next life. How? That either he merges into the Brahman, which is the impersonal Jyoti, Brahma Jyoti coming from the Lord, or he will get direct access to Lord by going back to the spiritual world. And then in the 31st shloka, Krishna is saying the bottom line, the punchline. What is that? Nayam lokosti ajnayadnyam. Nayam lokosti ayadnyam kutho anya kuru satam. See, hear this carefully. O best of the Kuru dynasty, he is addressing Arjun. Without sacrifice, here I'll repeat again, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next life? So understand, by trying to enjoy, we will never be able to enjoy. But by trying to sacrifice in the correct manner, not doing worship to false gods, to some Baba, some unauthorized Baba, some authorized Mate, some unauthorized, kind of people who display some feats and they say, Mere choki aayi, and then I have got, God inside me. Not that. That is not sacrifice. There you give money to get more. That is what you expect, but you never get. Right? So what then in the next life? So Krishna says, forget about in this life. Next life also you will not get. So therefore, for someone to become devotee is mandatory and compulsory. So having read the 30th shloka, its purport and translation, having read the 31st shloka and its translation, I will now read the purport, and then we will move to understand in two phases is what it means to be sacrificed. We have discussed, but we will discuss. And second, by doing this sacrifice, by doing this penance or austerity or sacrifice, whatever you call it, yagya, what are the benefits that one gets, right? So now I'll read the purport. I'll just read the translation once again, and then the purport of 31st shloka. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Purport. Whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of the real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and the sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the path of religion, economic comfort, regulated sense gratification, and at last the means to get out of this miserable condition entirely. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The path of religion or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above automatically solves our economic problems. By performance of yajna, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc. Even if there is a so-called increase of population, when the body is fully supplied, naturally the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe, therefore, sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Therefore, one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage. And the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, sacrifice, as described above. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yajna according to the Vedas, how can he expect to be happy in this life, in this body? And what to speak of another body on another planet? What Prabhupada is explaining is, everyone wants to be enjoying in this life. There is nothing wrong in wanting to enjoy. But to enjoy, you have to go through the process of yajna. Giving a gross example, if you want to be rich, you have to work and become rich. If you steal a bank, if you steal someone's house at night and then you become rich, you will be arrested and you in this life also, and then you'll be hanged if you do that again and again. And that will be the end of the story. So therefore, the bona fide process for becoming happy, rich, and opulent is what? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We want see, dharma is by practicing dharma, sacrifice. You get artha, you get money. Then you can, with that artha, with that money, you can satisfy yourself because that money is earned by the virtue of dharma. So then that artha can give us satisfaction in kama, in fulfilling our desires. And once we have fulfilled our desires, which by using the artha or the money that we have got from dharma, then naturally we will get inclined after enjoying to moksha. But today, what are we doing? We are bypassing dharma and going to artha, and we want kama, and then we don't get any moksha, but we get entanglement. And that's what Krishna is saying. What to speak of the next life? In this life itself, you will not be happy. Right? So any person who does not follow this path, dharma, artha, kama, will never be happy in life. By enjoying, you can be happy, but if that enjoyment is out of money, which is earned by dharmic process, by following the dharmic process, you be a Hindu and indirectly or directly be involved in, selling of meat, eating of meat, cutting something, transporting, you will get a lot of money, but then that is artha without dharma. And then you want to satisfy kama, you want to satisfy your desires. You will be able to, but you will never be happy by doing that. Just see today, in the olden times, there were families who were so poor, but they were so happy. People did not suffer from depression, stress, family breakups, fights, killing each other, except what we have been told falsely in history and that has been told on the media. It never happened in actual homes. We have seen, I'll give you an example of one very great person. He was a very big businessman in India. I will not like to name him. Very, very religious. His name is the name of Krishna. Right? So if you can understand, you can understand. But okay, let me just complete the purport, then I will tell you the story. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by the practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. So this person was a big, big industrialist, big time. His name also reflects Krishna's name. His brother's name also reflects Krishna's name. And they were extraordinarily rich, he was. And he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. He and his brother would do 3 hours of puja every day in the morning, being the biggest and successful businessman in the world. Right? Now, see what family is, He had a very great family. He was a very great man. He took care of his own family very well. He took care of his businesses very well. And he did not run any of his businesses in a way which was adharmic. Right? He told his people that if I don't make profit, I don't make profit. If I make loss, I make loss. But no corruption, no bribery, nothing. That is the way he ran his business. Now his descendants have gone into something very bad. So therefore, throughout his life, he was happy. Why? Because he got artha through dharma. He worshipped the Lord. He worshipped Lord Krishna. He donated crores and crores of rupees, land for building temples. The educational institution that he owns or he owned, now he's no more, which is in his name again, in his surname, had the temple or has the temple of Saraswati in the center. Right? Had the temple of Saraswati in the campus. Why? Because he was God conscious. Today's campuses have all the things. Like, and today we have become such hypocrites beyond this. Like in Panji, sometime back, few years back, 4 or 5 years back, there was renovation of the city of Panji, the capital of Goa, that was done for some stupid, festival, film festival or some kind of thing. For that, they put all weird kind of statues everywhere. And one of the statues which was put, in the main road is of a completely 100% naked man, in some position. Now, no one has objected to this kind of this. But in place of that, if the government would have put a Saraswati's statue or that of Ram, Krishna, or any of the devatas, there would have been big noise. So a naked man is allowed. Then your family, your young kids, your wives, men, women don't feel anything there. People walk around, take photos, selfies also there, right? That no one has taken objection. But had it been the statue of some Hindu god, immediately they would have taken objection to that, right? So that is the whole problem. Now coming back, so he's a great example. Sometimes in person, when I speak to you, I'll name that person so that you will realize. So you could be the richest man. He was one of the richest men in India. I'll tell you another example, another story of his. There is one big businessman in Mumbai who's not that rich as this guy. So, like, but he owns a 7-story bungalow in South Bombay. So you can imagine in South Bombay, if you have a 10 by 10 room, 10 feet by 10 feet, it could cost in crores, which is close to the beach or something. So he has this guy whom I'm talking about, another person. He had a 7-story bungalow, in South Bombay, or has. He's no more. So because he also is a big businessman, but not as big as the other guy I was talking, he went to meet him, the businessman whom I described earlier, who is a devotee of Krishna. And he casually asked him, he said, how much is your total wealth? Now, of course, these different rating agencies give different estimates of wealth based on their right and wrong figures and convenience. But what I'm telling you is a true story, because I have heard this story from the mouth of this person who went to meet the other person, the big industrialist I told you. This big industrialist who I spoke has a campus in Calcutta where he and his brothers in the same campus have their homes. So this devotee from Mumbai went to meet him there. And he asked him, he said, Mr. So-and-so, how much must be your total property? He said, just wait. He went inside his house. He had a tijori, he had a safe box. And he opened that and he just got out one jewel from that. A huge jewel from that. And he said, can you go and try to get the cost of this? And this person, being himself a big businessman, he understood, because you and me, we don't, hardly anyone, I guess, has diamonds and pearls and rupees with us, and some we may have, but they're all small, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 5 lakhs costing. It was a huge, as a size of a lemon or bigger than that. So he said, iska bhav karke aao, baki ka fir baad mein dekhenge. And I have many such stones. And this guy from Bombay who had gone there, this devotee, he said that, you could demand a rate and you would get a rate. This is why am I telling you all this in detail, is because a person can be honest throughout his life. He can do business honestly. He can be a devotee of Krishna. He can devote 3 hours a day per day to worship Krishna and live by principles and still be one of the richest men in the world. Because, and see just what he said, that's why just one gem in his house, could get him the money that he wanted. And he had several such gems. Forget about what his wife got in marriage from her father's side, and then, the other properties and lands that he had. That person owns a land of around 2,000 acres in Goa, close to the airport. 2,000 acres land. Just imagine what is the cost of that land. Forget about everything else. 2,000 acres of land. Then they have lands in Mumbai, Calcutta, Bombay, all these places. So that is the point I'm trying to make. And therefore, in the Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu, it is explained that what is the principle for devotees to live. It says, Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukullena Krishnano Shilanam. I hope there was a call, one boy, one student from Melkote Gurukul was calling me repeatedly. So I just told him that I'm in a class. Sorry. So everyone should remember this shloka. Anyabhilachita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulena krishnano shilanam bhaktiruttama. When the first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. Knowledge obtained by monoistic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably. Anukulya. Anukulena Krishnano. Then as Krishna desires. So that is how one could become happy. So as I am speaking to you, I am copy pasting this sloka into the group so that all of you can get it. And everyone should try to remember that, right? Everyone should to remember that. So is my voice okay now? Just now I got a message that my voice is coming low. Is it okay now, my voice, Nagaraj? No one, I can you hear me, Nagaraj?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
I'm audible. Okay. So then I think Nagaraj has a problem with his net. Okay. So now let us see what are the benefits, or we would say side benefits of bhakti, which for which all of us maybe are here in big numbers. What is the benefit of bhakti primarily? As they say, service is the reward for service. Just imagine if this world, even 10% of people start living by this principle, that I help someone, what did I get in return? Nothing. That service that I did to that person, it was itself was reward. If this is a kind of thing that we have in our life, imagine how happy we will be. So the side benefit I will say is, even if one is not successful in this life in attaining pure love of God, he is assured a human form of life in next birth. So at the time of death, one should not have fear what will happen, right? So one may get the next life in heavenly planets, he could get in Swargaloka, or he will be born in a very pious family or an aristocratic family. So the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly mentioned that, right, that such a person will be born in a very pious family, or this, that, one who fails to complete his devotional service. I'm not remembering that slok. If anyone can remember, Yogo Brashtopi Jayate, Srimatam Shunvatam Gehe. Srimata means rich, aristocratic family. Shrunvatam, people who are pious. Gehe, house. Yogo Brashto Vijayate. If a person is not able to complete his bhakti in this life, at least he's assured what? In the next life? Srimatam, Shrunvatam Gehe. An aristocratic family or a very, very pious family. Now someone will say, okay, these are the benefit of afterlife. What about the benefit of this life? So here it is. So second is one experiences relief from the effects of Rajogun and Tamogun, and we experience happiness and bliss. We experience a kind of peace just by being a devotee. If really we have, sometimes chanted nicely, we have gone for a nice yatra, we are sitting in a yatra, or we are hearing a nice class or kirtan, we sometimes get that experience, right? That, oh, I am free from these temptations, I am free from this passion. I want this, I want this, I want this, I didn't get that, I didn't get this. And we get a sort of very, very sattvic peace. Third, it gives us fearlessness about death. People are scared. I have seen, old people, they don't want to go to funerals, or they don't want to go near that because they think, "Hey, mera bhi aise hi hone wala thodi din mein." So they're scared, right? Then fourth is what? Understanding that everything that is happening, which is outwardly good or bad, is happening as per the will of Krishna and is therefore perfect. Now, this is not a Santwana, this is not just a mirage, but it is a fact that Krishna can never do any harm to me. So irrespective of what is happening in my life now, good or bad, is happening under the control of Krishna, and Krishna is orchestrating it. And ultimately that is good for me, whether I realize it or I don't realize it. Even having this faith gives us such peace in mind. I'll tell you an example. When people are young in a job, for small, small things, people fight. They have prestige for a bubble reputation, as they call. But as you grow up in life and you mature and you understand that Krishna is in full control, you don't have, otherwise there is so much of disturbance in the mind. There is so much of anxiety in the mind, especially when the season of promotions, increments and all of them come. Throughout the year, people don't think about it, how that I should work better, I should give results, that they don't think. I should be polite, I should be punctual, I should be efficient. They don't think that sort of. But when the time for it comes, that is the time when they feel that. Right? Fifth, one gets freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Death is painful, birth is painful. In between birth and death is jara and vyadhi, that is rog, that is sickness, and jara is old age. Sixth, very important, get confidence about life, because we have a purpose in life. Has any one of us experienced this, that if we have become devotees, we are chanting regularly, we have a purpose in life. What is that purpose in life? That I have to preach, I have to become better, I have to become better, I have to become better. Otherwise, people go into depression because though they have everything, but they do not have an aim in life. And if they have aims, they're all short-term aims or short-lived aims. That they have that aim that gets over or it never happens. But this is an aim which you can achieve and again keep on achieving and making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And most importantly, we get confidence in life. We get confidence in life that yes, what is right, what is wrong, what is happening. We just get control of life in one way. Control in the sense, control on understanding the life. Control is with Krishna. The seventh benefit is detachment from worldly pleasures. See, someone will say, यार ये क्या advantage है यार, मतलब हमको भौतिक जो मजे है उनसे हमको आसक्ति नहीं रहती है, अनासक्त होता है. It is actually as we saw in the purport, Prabhupada was saying, भोग करने की इच्छा क्या है? दुख का कारण. So दुख का कारण जाएगा तो क्या आएगा? सुख आएगा. So the desire to enjoy is the root cause of all the problems. So when we get relief from that desire, detachment from worldly pleasures, that means that's the time when we start enjoying. Like in English, there is a proverb which says what? It says the first thing that you have to do to start becoming happy is to stop trying to be happy. Right? पहली चीज जो हमको करनी है सुखी होने के लिए, क्या सुखी होने का प्रयास को त्याग करना है. वही तो सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. Now, detachment from worldly pleasure हो गया. Okay. 8th is freedom from bewilderment by Maya. Maya cheats us thoroughly. Up and down, she cheats us. Right? Maya cheats her up and down. And therefore, we get beaten, we get slashed, we get thrashed, we get pains, we get frustrations, and so many things. And we don't know Maya, and actually phasati hai Maya humko. We just get trapped in things. Right? So what happens? When Maya traps us, we get beaten. So we get freedom from bewilderment of Maya. She doesn't trap us, she doesn't confuse us. 9th, we get peace of mind. And like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ashantasya puthak sukham. That without peace of mind, where is the question of being sukhi? Right? So that is very important to become happy. Then 10th is transcendental knowledge. We get spiritual knowledge, and that spiritual knowledge we can use in our day-to-day life, in counseling others, in making our life better, in improving our spiritual life, our material life, our professional life, our social life, our political life, our habits, desires. Everything can change by having a transcendental knowledge. 11th, good health. Because when a person becomes a devotee of Krishna, he gives up all bad habits. So when what is the, like they say, lifestyle disease. What is lifestyle disease? No exercise, overeating, eating wrong things, and all these things. So bhakti is all about prasad also. So if you eat prasad as it is described, that you eat sattvic food, you eat on regular times, you fast on regular times, you do exercise when you serve Krishna, you walk, you do Govardhan Parikrama, right? So what happens then? Then you get exercise, so your life becomes very happy, your health is very good. 12th, one starts getting respect in the society. Of course, there are people who mock us also. Like, there is one temple in Jammu, which I get this experience every time. So it is there, our devotees and all, we sit inside, some new boys try to come and meet us. So the people who have met us before and are not interested in bhakti, they come out in the windows and door and they hide and call those people out. Arey, idhar mat baitho, ye pagal log hai. Means they will spoil themselves, have spoiled themselves, and they want to spoil others also. Right? So whatever, the point is that people start getting respect. 13th is Krishna may give lots of wealth, control over material energy, power to influence other people, prestige, name, and fame. So when you become a pure devotee, and at least when we start becoming devotee, we get all these things. Lots of wealth Krishna gives sometimes, control over material energy, then power and influence, power to influence other. We can influence people, but we should use this power positively, not to influence them badly. Prestige, name, and fame. People know you, oh, this person is a devotee, chants Hare Krishna, this, that. So these are the benefits, 13 benefits as we were discussing that we get by becoming a devotee, right? So it is worth that we become a devotee. I'll just repeat once again. First is, even if the first benefit, I'll just read out again. Even if one is not successful in life in attaining pure love of God, he is assured a human life in the next birth. The second is what? He experiences relief from Rajogun and Tamogun, and we experience a bliss, a kind of peace because of being relieved of those effects of Rajo and Tamogun. Third, it gives us fearlessness about death, and it gives us general fearlessness. Fourth, understanding that everything that is happening, good or bad, is happening as per the will of Krishna, therefore it is perfect. Fifth, one gets freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Sixth, one gets confidence about life since one has got a purpose in life. Seventh, detachment from worldly pleasures. Eighth, freedom from bewilderment by Maya. Ninth, peace of mind. 10th, transcendental knowledge. 11th, good health. 12, one starts getting respect in society. And 13, Krishna gives a lot of wealth, control over material energy, power to influence other people, prestige, name, and fame. These are all so many benefits of being a devotee. So I guess we've covered this all. And okay, there's one point that I would like to say that it comes in the passing remark in this. It is, it says that, without yajna, we discussed that in detail, that without getting food because of yajna, getting benefits because of yajna will not be there. Purnima Mataji, will you please mute your phone? Thank you. So it says, there's a very beautiful shloka in the, I guess in the third chapter, 13th shloka. It says, Yajna Shishta Shinas Santo Munchate Sarva Kilbisha Bhunjate Te Agam Papam Ye Pachanti Atma Karmakati. It says that devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for the sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat sin. So this is very important, Eating food is not bad. Cooking food is not bad, but cooking it only for our pleasure, eating it only without offering to Lord, thinking it is only for me, we are verily eating sin. So what it says in short is, whatever food we offer, we should offer it to Krishna. We prepare it, we offer it to Krishna, and then it becomes the remnants of Krishna or prasad. Then we should consume it. So in the present world, what is the status? Though the sense gratification has increased, facilities that there are malls, there are, what kind of facilities? There is TV, fridge, aeroplanes, everything. Things that were not imaginable 50 years back, they are there today. People can talk to each other, see each other anytime, anywhere, video calls, voice calls, Teams and whatnot is there. What was not there 50 years back, everything is there. But that is, sense gratification has increased. But happiness has increased? No, it has taken a big beating. Right? In fact, distress has increased a lot. And people are suffering more and more in spite of enjoying more and more. Isn't that an important point that we should all note? See in your own life. In the earlier part of the life, in most of our childhoods, we did not have mobiles because no one had. Only if there is someone 15, 16 years old here, will have a mobile in his childhood. I got my first mobile at 25 years of age. Right? But people had no problem with their relations and other things. Right? So that's the whole point about it. So that's the thing. So I think we will stop here. If anyone has any questions, please tell. If there is any question, then we will try to answer. Anyone have any questions? Anyone? No one? Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We will meet tomorrow, Friday, for reading of Radha Damodar Vilas. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. You can leave the meeting now.